It's the fourth installment of Lighting Answers here on July 4th weekend of 2014. But you may not even be watching this episode on or near July 4th, and it may not be our Independence Day in your country, or however that works. So, anyways, let's just get on with it. I'm Joe DeGanzik, lighting and home automation enthusiast, and I've been sharing my own tips, tricks, information, and experience with you over the course of this series. Early on, we talked about my own experience and history and why you should even take my advice. And then we talked a little bit about the history of lighting, and we also got into how we got to where we are today, which is where the government here in the USA and governments around the world in other countries have basically banned the manufacture of a traditional, old, incandescent, inefficient, heat-generating light bulbs. In fact, I don't even have it in my little stash here to show off to you, because we're done with that. We are moving on. So I want to give you a little bit of history as well before we get into our buying guide. Just a little bit about where LEDs came from, but then we're going to jump right into giving you the straight facts and information about what you should buy, from where, and the stuff that you shouldn't buy. But I'm not going to hook them up to scopes, I'm not going to test them, I'm not going to do all this stuff that you can find in other videos. So just going to give you the information that you're looking for, that I think most people, the average consumer, is looking for. What do I buy? So that's what we're going to do. So let's just take a look at some history. We talked last time about the efficiencies of LED light bulbs. Obviously, they are way more efficient than your traditional incandescent, and they are more efficient than your CFL bulbs as well. So I do highly recommend just jumping to LED if you haven't already. So the early years of LED, we all know what LEDs are. We see them everywhere, whether they are actually in big bright light bulbs like the one that's lighting me up right now, or they're in little indicator lamps. They've been around for decades, and actually they were doing research into LEDs way back in the day. This was like 100 years ago. But we see them everywhere. We see them in little indicators, such as on the logo on this TV. We see them on perhaps the little red LEDs on this digital audio recorder. They're great because basically they don't burn out because they don't have a traditional filament. They last a long time and they don't take much power. They also don't generate much heat. In the late 1960s, they basically perfected them, and then in the 70s, we saw them proliferate and become part of a lot of electronics and consumer devices and all kinds of things, but they were just little indicator lights. They weren't very bright, and they were never going to do anything such as, actually be used how they are today, which is for general lighting, street lighting. In so many different ways we're using LEDs instead of the old types of lighting standards. In the late 90s, there was a company that started up called Color Kinetics, and basically they introduced a solution for architectural and theatrical and stage lighting, basically for wash kind of and flood type applications, where it was a no compromise solution. Again, very little heat generated, no UV generated, which is good for art installations, and a full spectrum color range with little energy usage compared to traditional giant stage lighting. And you can see them that they have proliferated along with their competitors over many, many years, lighting up things like the Tempe Town Lake pedestrian bridge, and also, say, the Harbor Bridge over there in Sydney, Australia. So after that, part of all the development that was going on was, what is the holy grail of LED lighting? And that's white LED light. So remember that LEDs do not have regular filaments like regular light bulbs. They don't glow in the same way. They have something entirely different, phosphors and little electronic components. So anyways, the holy grail was to get LEDs to be white and to glow as brightly as, one of our old friends, traditional incandescent light bulb. So at the end of the day, many companies were working on this, and they did make a lot of inroads in the 90s, but it wasn't until 2004 the company named Cree had done a tremendous amount of research, and they launched something called X-Lamp, X-lamp was a LED chip. No, not a tasty chocolate chip, but something more like this. This is an actual LED chip, and the little part that's yellow there, yellow kind of greenish on this monitor, is what actually glows. So anyways, they introduced X-lamp and it revolutionized LED lighting because it was the first LED chip that could be used for traditional lighting because it was bright enough and it was stable, it didn't generate enough heat, it didn't burn itself out, and whatnot. So LEDs are little electronic components. You pass a current through them, and basically through a combination of phosphors, the chemicals, and how much current is going through them, they glow at different intensities and different colors. An entire wide range of, literally the entire rainbow of colors is now available through LED lighting. So that's a little bit about the history, and that's the early years. It's also worth noting in terms of development of LEDs. A couple of years ago, there was a competition called not the X Prize, that's for space travel and other things. The L Prize, which was for creating the nation's most efficient light bulb. Philips did that in 2011 by creating a light bulb that looked similar to this. It was a little more kind of on the yellowish side, but it glowed white, and it was less than 10 watts of power, and it was the equivalent to a 60-watt traditional old incandescent light bulb. So let's move on to the buying guide before we get any more people skipping past the education section. So help. You go to the store and you see all these different varieties of light bulbs, and you're like, what do I buy? They're so confusing, and some of them are ugly, some of them are cool, and what do you do? Well, all right, let's give you some information, and only the real good stuff. So here's a light bulb that actually is a really beautiful light bulb. Unfortunately, the company has recently gone out of business, which is too bad. They were a small startup that gained a lot of attention, but unfortunately it took too long to get their product to market from when they announced it several years ago. And the original bulb, which I do have, which is now a collector's item, this was made by a company, literally there's the label, called Switch. It's actually filled with liquid silicone. It is the only one that can be used in completely enclosed fixtures because it has a liquid cooling system, and it can be any orientation. Why am I telling you about the bulb? Because now they're on clearance. So instead of being 45 or 50 bucks, you can get this for $10 to $15. You have to Google it, Amazon it, whatever your favorite place is, eBay. Search for Switch Lighting or Switch Infinia. Switch Infinia is the plasticky version of this. Same great light quality and light output. And you can see I'll just put showing you where I use these in my kitchen, in these wonderful little pendant lamps from IKEA. They make a statement. If you can find them, get them, because they may not be produced ever again. So I am super happy to actually have two of these, and now, again, they may be collector's items. So thanks a lot, Switch, for doing something that was really amazing, and unfortunately, we're sorry that you're gone. At least their website's gone at this point. So let's talk about some other retailers. Retailers generally tend to carry one or two lines of bulbs. They make a contract, and that's what they carry. So you go to one store and you find these guys. You go to another store and you find those guys. And in the LED market, it's important because each bulb is a little bit different. It's not the same as just pumping out incandescent light bulbs that we've been doing for the past 100 years or so. So anyways, LEDs are all different, and I want to demo, not really demo, but give you the information about the best ones to buy from your favorite retailers. I haven't tested anything or looked into Ace Hardware, True Value, or independent hardware stores, so that it will probably be up to your own research if those are your favorite places to shop. Otherwise, we'll cover Target and the Lowe's and Home Depot and whatnot. I showed this off last time. This is just a store shelf from Target. You can see that they've got LED bulbs kind of at the top, and then CFLs, and then the traditional bulbs at the bottom. They generally carry the GE line of lighting, whether it's bulbs, floods, whatever. And anyways, so I tested two of these guys, took them home, screwed them in, and subjected them to my very, very difficult dimming tests. and found that they're okay in terms of the light quality is good. It's a warm white light. It's a beautiful light. The only thing was the one on the right had a strange dark spot that I'll show you, and I don't think it was simply something wrong with the bulb. I think it's just part of the design. Each LED bulb tries to kind of uniformly give you a nice glow around the entire bulb like you would expect, but they all do them a little bit differently. So I can recommend the LED bulbs from GE. The light output from the flood bulb was excellent and a great brightness, and it was a wonderful warm white. Warm white, soft white, if you see a number 2700 or 3000, all four of those are interchangeable. They will give you that normal sort of soft white light that you're looking for, that everyone has been familiar with traditional incandescent bulbs. So again, soft white, warm white, 2700 or 3000. Those indicators on these boxes and these packaging, these types of packaging will give you that output. Most of them are not putting out these numbers anymore, those 1000 numbers, which is color temperature. They're generally just saying soft white or warm white. So that's great, and you can see that here somewhere on it. Anyways, it's putting out there it is, soft white. So that's where they are labeling that for ease of consumer use. So they're also giving you the equivalent wattage, 65 watts, 60 watts, so you don't have to think about what, because the bulb doesn't use that many watts. So that's the stuff from GE. Here's the dark spot on it. You can see it's a little bit of a ring at the top of the bulb. If you have it in an enclosed fixture or it's over, a lampshade is over it, it's probably fine. I wouldn't want to look at it as a bare bulb with that artifact. It just seems strange to me. So anyways, and the line is not really there. This is simply when you take a photo of certain LED bulbs, the way that the LEDs work, sometimes you get lines in the picture. So you have to be careful with that if you're a serious photographer and you're working with LED lighting. But you probably already knew that if you're a serious photographer. Anyways, moving on. Lowe's carries their own brand, and they also carry Sylvania. Utilitech Pro is what they call their brand. It's actually made by a company called Fight Electric and one or two other companies, but that is just kind of extra information. The middle bulb and the one on the right, just don't even bother with it. This is older technology. They're still selling these. I don't know why. There's newer technology such as the bulb on the left, and even newer technology than that. The one in the middle and the one on the right, unless you want your home to have this kind of sci-fi futuristic look, great, but otherwise I say get rid of them. Don't even bother with it. The light output from both of these was okay, not great. It wasn't really 360 degrees. These have these kind of funky fins that go over the bulb, and you have these sections of light, kind of like the Philips kind of thing. Yeah, anyways. And this is, by the way, an old Philips bulb. We'll get into more of that in here in a minute. So anyways, again, from Lowe's, just don't even buy this one or that one. From Utilitech, you want to get something that looks more normal. And this one had a great light output. It was soft white and a beautiful warm, soft white color. Those are just interchangeable terms. The light was bright. The dimming was okay, wasn't super amazing. There's only a couple bulbs on the market that have amazing dimming if you're really into that, like I am. But anyways, the one on the left, I would say go for it if you find it at Lowe's. Now, here's another comparison of the Lowe's LED with the funky fins and Sylvania's LED. Now, this is old Sylvania. They were still stocking this and didn't have the new ones that Sylvania has listed on their website, which are a smoother package, a little bit closer to, say, the Cree design, except no fins on the heatsink. So anyways, avoid these both. The light output was funky, it wasn't uniform, the dimming was not so good, and just don't even buy it. Sorry, Lowe's and Sylvania, don't buy it. Let's move on to Philips. So getting back, this is Philips' latest generation. This is one of Philips' first generation. Originally, these looked like bug lights. They use actually blue LEDs inside here that are converted to white light. So it's actually white when it glows, but it's really more on the yellowish side. It didn't really come across all that great. And the problem is if you put it in an enclosed fixture or something that has a frosted lens over it, or even a lampshade, you're going to get these shadows because you've got these fins that are part of the heat sink, and then you've got this middle thing in the middle of the bulb that doesn't even light up. I don't know. Anyways, again, this is like 3-year-old technology. That's how fast the lighting industry, the LED lighting industry changes, because it's like smartphones. They'll launch a new bulb every 6 months because they can. And that's Philips. Philips is kind of like Samsung. They just keep putting out new stuff. So, and they've been made fun of by one of their biggest competitors, Cree, who we talked about early on. Cree, of course, used to just make LED chips, then about 1.5 years ago got into the game of making their own light bulbs, such as this. Cree, of course, was the one basically who commercialized white LED light, like I said, back in 2004 with the X lamp. So this guy's holding a modified version of this. Philips introduced a few months ago a slim style bulb. Now, this is ridiculous. We'll show you a couple of seconds of the clip so we don't get pulled off by YouTube. So basically, in the commercial, he's playing ping pong with the Philips slim style bulb. This is ridiculous. Why would you introduce a bulb that is the stupidest looking light bulb there is? Like I said, Philips is Samsung. They will introduce 80,000 bulbs and confuse the hell out of every consumer out there. This is what the bulb looks like on. It's like this horseshoe looking thing. Kind of reminds me of those circle line fluorescent things that we were really wanting to get away from years ago. And you can see the LEDs, and so the middle doesn't glow, it's just the outside. So yeah, maybe you should get some. We should actually get some on the show and have a ping pong contest. These commercials are great. The commercials are actually for Cree, not for Philips. But Philips has made a lot of strides. They won the L Prize, they did all their things, they introduced this. But before they introduced this, they had actually introduced this guy, and they've upped the lumens on this, or the brightness, so you'll see a slightly different package. But it's basically a much cleaner design now. They realize that consumers want something that actually looks like it's white, whether it's on or off. So it has pretty good dimming. It's smoother now. It's acceptable. It doesn't really flicker that much below 50%, but all bulbs tend to flicker below 50%. No one has completely perfected this except for one company. We'll go into that here in a second. So anyways, this is Home Depot. Home Depot carries Philips. You can find Philips online. You can find most of these bulbs online. If you don't like to shop in physical stores, you can find pretty much all of this. But when you go online and you start searching for LED bulbs, you will also find all the no-name manufacturers, and I would recommend that you stay away from them because they're just no names. You have no idea what the history is, that they're really putting out great bulbs. You're going to get them home and you probably won't like them, and who knows what the return policy is if you're shopping at some no-name website. All these LED bulbs these days are going to run you between $10 and $15 or less. Different rebates from utility companies in different parts of your local area may actually cause the prices to drop below $10 or even less than that. And people are running deals. Like I said, it's July 4th weekend coming up, at least when I'm making this video, so there may be sales. You may be able to stock up and save on all these different LED bulbs. Or if you don't want to put the money into them all at once, just do them perhaps one at a time, one a month, whatever you want to do. I just recommend doing it because it's a lot better than these traditional old incandescent light bulbs. They also don't generate a lot of heat, so you won't be paying in the summer to cool both your house and your lights. Let's move on to another brand that most people have never heard of. They've actually been a company, they've been around a long time. They also make CFL bulbs, and they're the only ones who have perfected dimming on LED bulbs. Now, admittedly, the dimming is better on their higher end bulbs than these, say, again, market competitive $10 bulbs. And I wasn't perfectly satisfied, so I sent them back. But the light output is great. The dimming is very good. And the reason I sent them back was simply that they didn't match exactly what I was expecting, but for you, they would probably be okay. You can't find them in stores Home Depot sells a connected line of TCP bulbs that are sort of like smart bulbs. I recommend that you avoid them because there's too many different types of smart technologies coming out, and we've got to wait another 6 months to a year for more of this technology to kind of shake out. So you can find these online, you can find these at Home Depot's website in the non-smart connected versions. They put out a great warm white light, they put out a great brightness, and they dim well. And Cree, of course, this guy that I use quite a bit of in my own home, and it's a no compromise bulb. It was the first light bulb to come out that was $10 or less, depending on where you lived, and again, the utility rebates. It puts out a 360-degree light. Yes, you'll see I do use them in quite a bit, say little wall sconces, and even in my bathroom vanity. You'll notice there's slight little dark spots, but all that means is that the LEDs, there's a light tower of LEDs, and they go around the bulb. There are no LEDs that actually push light out the top, but because of the frosted bulb itself, you actually get a 360-degree light spread. So it looks like there's a dark spot. There really isn't. It doesn't actually affect the light output. They're a beautiful, warm, white light. They come on instantly. They dim pretty well. They do, flicker a little bit at lower intensities like most LED bulbs do, except for the higher-end TCP bulbs. And depending on the type of dimmer that you put it on, your results will vary. And that is true across all LED bulbs, no matter what you do. TCP has kind of perfected that game, and we'll talk more about them in a future episode. So that's, let's just jump back real quick. Anyways, the packaging, again, 60-watt replacement. You don't have to worry about what type of bulb it's replacing. It's a warm white, it's dimmable. They really nailed the packaging to make it simple for the consumer. These are exclusively available at Home Depot online or in stores. You can't find them literally anywhere else except for probably like eBay. I think they're a great bulb. They've got, again, 60 watt, 40 watt, 75, 100 watt replacements in terms of equivalent. And that goes for pretty much all the manufacturers. Whatever you're replacing, whatever you need to replace, you're going to be able to find a replacement bulb. Cree and Philips makes the most varieties. Lowe's does tend to have in their Utilitech line quite a variety of LED bulb replacements, and I use a few of them as well for smaller little bulbs. I'll go into more specialty lighting in a future episode, but they do tend to carry a lot of variety, which is good. So otherwise, I like Cree, I like Philips, I like TCP. I actually use a multitude of variety of bulbs in my home here because I just have to for the application I'm using. But if you're just replacing traditional screw-in light bulbs, I think this guy and the Philips, if I jump back a few slides, these guys both are really hard to beat in terms of price and light output. Again, you can find them at Home Depot, these both, but you can also find them online, so there's ways of getting these either cheaper or from your favorite retailer. Don't forget to write us. Don't forget that we want your feedback, questions at answers.lighting. Let me know what types of bulbs you have. If you've taken my advice and you hate the bulbs I've recommended, if you've got better ones to recommend, I'm happy to review them in a future episode. And don't forget that you can also, of course, get us online through social media and get us feedback that way. Twitter, Google+, YouTube, we're on everything. And remember that the website is at answers.lighting. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube so that you can get all the different episodes when they come out, and it helps us kind of count all of our numbers and all that good stuff. And don't forget to get us on Patreon. Patreon is a Kickstarter for ongoing projects. It allows us to ultimately remove the commercials and ads from YouTube and kind of be an independently supported show. If you like the projects that we'll be doing that you haven't even seen yet, we're going to be doing some projects and showing you how to do things in future episodes, and obviously we're going to continue to review new LED lights that may come out in the coming months and years. So if you like this and you want to contribute to the show, you can contribute on a per episode basis, $1, $5, $10. If you're really wealthy, maybe $10,000, but we're not going to ask too much. Contribute if you'd like, that would be super amazing. So there's that. And now what we want to do is we want to get into just a little preview of our next episode, which is going to be all about color and colored LEDs and how to not overdo when you're working with color and when you're working with light. Now granted, this is behind the TV here is a Philips LED bulb. Philips Hue came on the market almost 2 years ago and really created quite a stir. They're extremely expensive LED bulbs. I don't recommend that you go buy them just to buy some LED bulbs. They're color changing, their color output is pretty good. It's not amazing, but they do some cool things, and if you use them for accent lighting, I think they're really great. You can get different apps like this one. This is not the official Hue app, but you can do all kinds of things and swipe through different color combinations and purples and yellows and greens, and why don't we we'll put it back on kind of like a nice blue. There it is. So anyways, you can do a lot of things. I've fully integrated them into my home automation system here at my place. So they change color every day. They do kind of nifty effects and different things, but they're accent lighting. So I want to show you how to not do color. Well, I want to show you how to do color the right way and not the wrong way. Let's just say that. And we'll bring the studio back to the way it was here before, and we'll go back to my other slide. So anyways, that's it. If it is July 4th at some point when you're watching this video, go out, maybe get some sales, hit some sales at the stores. You can find LED bulbs for cheap that way. And at the end of the day, don't forget that you can search for the switch bulb right now in the next probably couple weeks before all the inventory runs out. Switch lighting or Switch Infinia, and you can get this amazing, really high-tech, high-end LED bulb, kind of like the iPhone of LED bulbs, for much less money than it originally debuted at. So at the end of the day, that is it. I'm Joe DeGanzik, and I've been giving you lighting answers, and I'll see you next time.